pulling up an essential part of making how do you distinguish different keys. For example, you may have messed with the starter code. It had key is pressed inside an if statement. Key is pressed is any key. And maybe you want more specific behavior. Like if I press W, I want my circle to be drawn upwards or moving upwards. If I press D, it's going to move downwards. A, it goes left. D, it goes right, WASD. If you play any kind of games, those are typically the ones that control movement. So let's try to get that with a circle. We go to the reference. It involves key codes, which distinguish the W key from the D key, the A key from the S key. And let's make sense of how that works. So in this example, notice if I press the up arrow on my keyboard, it turns white. If I press down, it turns black. And we kind of toggle. But we can build off of this and do neater things. So to start, let me copy this code, open a new pen, paste that in. Oops. Copy, paste, save and run, and we should get a canvas. Great. It's gray, turns black, turns white. Code works as it does in the reference. And what I will do now is change this part. Notice they are using KeyPressed. Remember, that's a function. Key is pressed is the variable. In order to use the KeyPressed code, you have to modify stuff inside the function. Notice it's outside of draw. Previously, if you used like if key is pressed, it would look something like this. You can get similar behaviors, and that would all be draw. For this example, we're going to mess with the KeyPressed function. You can accomplish similar behavior all in draw too. So then we focus our attention here, key code being up. What is this key code? In JavaScript, every single key is tied to a certain number. So if you go to the reference and you scroll down a little bit, it tells you. If you want backspace to occur, you got to copy these words in all caps. If you want the delete key, enter key, return, tab, space, up, down arrows. If you want letters and stuff, you can go to this key code website. And like letter A is tied to the number 65. The letter W is tied to 87. S is tied to 83. And D is tied to 68. There's some kind of mapping that's done on the computer side or on JavaScript side on like the ASCII table. Different characters have different numbers. You're going to need this to distinguish between which key is pressed, and we're going to check and compare. Like, oh, if the A key is pressed, the key code's going to be 65. That looks like if key code equals 65, it should turn white. Turns white in color. And maybe we go back here, maybe A is 65, maybe D is 68. Maybe when 68 is pressed, we're going to have it go black. Turns black in color. Let's save and I run. Take my word for it, I'm pressing A, it turns gray. If I press D, it turns black. If I press A again, it turns white. If I press D, it turns black. Cool. We're getting similar behaviors. I'm pressing A and D repeatedly, and so we have this toggling. Great. Let's do something more complicated that involves variables. Let's try to get movement going. And for the purposes of this short screencast, I'm just going to have it move left and right. You can add on to have it follow your mouse, maybe go up, down, left, and right, and then diagonal. But I'll just get you started there. This will be my change in x. I'm teaching algebra 1, so it's like your delta x. And maybe at the beginning it'll be 5. Does that work? Sure. I may go back and change those variables. Let's have this be the x-coordinate instead. X-coord. Okay, let's start it at 25. Wherever we saw 25, x-coordinate will now work. And let's see. Save and run. We should see that same exact picture as I toggle between here. Nice, it works. And now, let's see. If I press A, I want it to move towards the left. So I want my x-coordinate to decrease. That looks like updating it. X-coordinate, I want you to be 1 less than what you were before. That's what it looks like in English. In code, that looks like this. X-coordinate equals x-coord minus 1. Notice the names really matter. It's all spelled the same. And this is like the updating or modifying line. Let's see what happens. Click run. I'm pressing the A key. It should be drawn. So I got to press it over and over again, and it leaves a little trail. But you notice it's slowly moving towards the left. Nice. Let's do the same with the other coordinate. If now we press D, we have to update it a little bit differently. We want it to increase according to the x direction, x coord. Instead of subtracting, we're going to add 1. We save and we run. Now we have this nonsense where we press D, it leaves a black square, so that's kind of like drawing. But maybe you find it really annoying that you have to press it so many times in order to get it to appear. I press A, it goes left. There's my outline, my square is moving. And so that is simple movement using the KeyPressed function. Perhaps you're annoyed like me and you're like, okay, I don't want to have to press the key so many times in order to get it to move. Let's look at a different kind of key behavior. We control find on here. Maybe key is down, key typed. I think key, which one? So as it is held, I want it to have certain behavior. I think this should be it. So for ASCII keys, it is stored. For this reason, we're meant to read the key variable in which it will be distinguished. Key is released. Well, maybe that will work. So let's try key is released instead. Released. Watch the spelling. Let's see what happens now. So no key is pressed in the beginning. We have a gray square. I press A once. Did it move? Released is just a one-time action. So perhaps that isn't stored. Let's see if I change it to key pressed, and then we look at just the key variable. This is another built-in thing. Key remembers the last key that was pressed. It doesn't work with numbers. Key works with, I think, letters, so that's A. Let's see what happens. Darn it. Alright, so perhaps that'll be Friday's screencast. Let's get it to be less annoying. When I press A, it moves left. When I press D, it moves right, without having to press it over and over again. So that concludes today's little lesson on how key variables work. Continue working on your shape patterns. I will upload this soon. Make sure to get revisions in so that before the marking period ends, your quiz grade is higher. Your overall grade gets higher too. You can give it to my TA over here at the purple